We are live. What's going on? It's Brian from SeacoastBeverageLab.com, and this is episode 156 of the Seacoast Beverage Lab podcast. Back after a couple beer weeks went by, few events, and a lot of beer news have happened. But we're going to focus this show on Portland Beer Week because Carla, for some reason, joined the day after a long week of beer, and we want to talk.
And I'm drinking beer.
And she's drinking beer, which I saw on Twitter that it was Happy Water Week, but we're not gonna go through that. That's fine. But I shout out to Momo, Mike Meredith of Seacoast Beverage Lab podcast fame. He gave me a Heady Topper, so that's what I'm drinking right now. He dropped off one of these bad boys and a Crusher, which I haven't had yet, which I hear is better than the Heady. I've never had it. I'm partial to the Focal Banger. Thoughts?
The Crusher is a big hop pill to swallow, and it's a booze bomb.
Yeah, see, I compared them. I'm like, for the podcast, I don't know if I might go into some weird rants if I even take a sip of that one. So I'll wait till maybe tomorrow because I have reasons to drink beer tomorrow for sure. We'll get into that later. But Ben, welcome, my friend.
What's up, everybody? At BM Watts on Twitter. I am drinking some fine Maine brews here. Got some Humalone. Read a wonderful article about the history of Allagash White over on Good Beer Hunting today. And it just left this taste in my mouth. Like all I wanted was Allagash tonight. So excited to get a little bit of that. Love it.
Awesome. Carla, what's going on? Happy to be alive. I see.
Yeah, so I am drinking beer. I'm actually drinking a Great Rhythm Hi-Fi, which I won at the baby shower for knowing the name of lots of beer books. So that was cool. Yeah. Nice. No, I actually survived Portland Beer Week pretty intact, so I'm feeling pretty good. I am not the usual hungover, oh my God, detox myself for a month that I usually feel like after Beer Week. But we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But man, it was a good one.
Nice. Speaking of baby showers, Sean, what's up? Gives himself applause. Hey, bring it in, guys. What's going on, sir?
John Jansen from twobeerguys.com. I'm currently drinking a Stone Woot Stout, and I think they call it the Farking Wheaton version.
Nice. What's it's a stout? What's the ABV on that?
Is that the one with pecans in it, too?
It's a big 13 ABV.
Hey-o.
It's got Greg as Chewbacca, Drew Curtis as Obi-Wan, and Will Wheaton as Han Solo.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that.
That's cute.
Oh, yeah. Quick shout out to the
baby's gonna feel that.
It's right. All right, so I want to get into Portland Beer Week because, as usual, it's an epic week. And I remember the podcast before, Sean and I were talking about going up, and I didn't make it. I don't believe Sean made it.
I did not.
Carla, you seem to have covered some serious ground.
Yeah.
Just kind of give us a rundown of where you went, kind of what the feel was, and any new beers or anything you tried.
So I'll start just by saying that I think I say this every year, but I really do think that this is the best Portland Beer Week they've had thus far. They had a great collection of events. They had a great amount of participation by a lot of different brewers, a lot of different venues, and always threw in some creative stuff along the way. Having the beer week happen at the same time as election week made us so that we all kind of got together and bonded together over all of that. But it was fantastic. So highlights for me were definitely the freshman class, the freshman orientation event, which is a Maine Brewers Guild fundraiser where they take all of the new breweries that have opened in the past year and put them together for one event where you are speed dating through them. So you get a set number of minutes and then you go to the next table. There were 14 breweries participating, which I thought was absolutely insane. So, it also took place at night. So it wasn't during the midday like last year's was. So it started about 7 p.m. And I have to say that all of the quality of that whole group was fantastic. I was thinking, okay, I haven't had a lot of these from, far away. It's the whole, I'm the only brewery in town. I'm a little nano something. They were all really good. But I do recall a moment halfway through, they had a little card that had all of the breweries on it so that you knew which one to go to next. And I was going, oh yeah, we only have 2 left, right? And they were like, no, we have 7 left. And I was like, whoa. Oh my God.
And it started at 7 at night too, right?
We were getting 2 to 3 ounce pours. So, realistically it wasn't that bad, but just afterwards I was like, wow, yeah, that was a great crowd. My God, there's still many more. Highlights for me from that, UFF has a brewery in it now that does just gruits like Earth Eagle does, and they had a lavender gruit that tasted nothing like lavender smells. It was delicious. Because lavender to me is like old lady soap, but the beer tasted nothing like that. It was just spicy and earthy and awesome. So they're doing some good stuff over there. Also, Norway Brewing came and brought a Berliner Weiss, and then they had, instead of the Woodruff syrup, they made their own pear syrup. It was awesome. So tons going on. Dirigo was there, and Tom kept making the joke that he's not really a freshman. He just his credits didn't transfer. So this is
That's awesome.
Which I thought was cute, because obviously this is his second time at this freshman orientation event. First for Bull Jagger and now for this. So I thought that was hilarious. Was
he in the first one they ever did?
It must have been, yeah. He may have been.
That's amazing.
Or maybe the second. Because Portland Beer Week's been going on for 5 years, but that freshman orientation event has not been 5 years. That's only been 4. So it must have been the first one.
Now, is there, if I can ask, and if you can't tell me, that's fine. Why was the event moved to the nighttime? Because, I mean, it's great. It's great for those that are in Portland at night, but to have that many breweries between 7 and 9 p.m., for me was kind of a put-off, because it's tough to kind of drive home after an event like that. And also, you want to go check out other things. Is there a reason why they did it at night?
I don't know what the official reason was. There were a couple of events that were non-beer related going on in Portland during the day, so it may have just been a logistic. I don't know. But for me, it worked out because it meant I could have dinner beforehand. You know what I mean? As opposed to it being from noon to 3 or something, and then you're totally drunk for the rest of the afternoon. You know what I mean? So it was so there were pros and cons, but I actually did end up crashing in Portland that night. I knew it, and I planned it in advance because I didn't want to have to, kind of hold back. I knew I was going to go out with the brewers afterwards and hang out and whatnot. So that was really fun. Yeah, fantastic. And then another highlight definitely on Monday was the Pro-Am competition, and I think I talked about this a couple weeks ago. They had, I believe, 11 breweries that partnered with homebrewers, and they changed up the format, so this was blind. So what they gave us was a brochure that had descriptions, ABVs, and styles, essentially, for all 11 beers. We took over Salvage Barbecue and essentially went back and forth trying them all, and then they announced the winners. And what was awesome, I thought, was that the winner, when they announced who the brewery was, I would have never thought that they would have made that beer. So
oh, nice.
If I was trying to pin the tail on the donkey or whatever, I would have been totally wrong. So the winner was actually, and my notes are upstairs, I should have brought them down. The winner actually was a really tart, nice, kind of a slightly sour, almost like a Berliner Weiss. It had some fruit in it. I don't remember what fruit. It's upstairs. And I was like, wow, that's really good. Wow, this is awesome. I wonder who on earth made that. And it was the crowd favorite for sure. And it turned out it was Masked Landing. So Masked Landing usually doing hoppy stuff, and they're also the ones that did that Gunner's Daughter, that peanut butter chocolate beer. So this is basically the last thing that I would have seen them do. But a lot of great people there, and again, some format changes that made that just awesome, just rocking.
Now, was Foulmouth part of that Pro-Am at all?
Yep. Foulmouth was part of that. Bull Jagger was part of that. I'm sorry.
Oh, nice.
Dirigo was part of that. I was talking about Bull Jagger earlier. Sorry. Dirigo was part of that. Allagash, Geary's. There were 11 different breweries that all participated in it.
Now,
and several. Go ahead.
How did the logistics of it work?
So the way that it worked is that we came in and you got a glass and then 6 voting tickets. and then the brochure that had the descriptions of each beer. And then in Salvage Barbecue, that huge space, on one side were jockey boxes with beers 1 through 6, and on the other side were jockey boxes 7 to 11 or whatever was left over. They did have food available, so you could just, if you wanted to order barbecue, you could. But basically, you took your tasting glass. You had as many. It was unlimited. They had a little card where you could stamp basically for the number of tasters that you've had, and it was way more than anybody could have needed. And then you take your tickets at the end, and they had a little voting area set up where you would leave your tickets for your favorite one. Nice. And then they got everybody together at the end, and they announced who had won and what the counts were. It was very close. Nice. The counts as well. So again, really good quality all the way throughout too. There wasn't one where you were just like, homebrew, man. There was one that was slightly undercarbonated, and they were disappointed by that. They thought they might have had a leak in the CO2.
That's what they all say. They say that all the time.
They're like, it wasn't like that when it left the brewery. And I'm like, uh-huh.
Nice.
Was Dirigo part of the freshman class?
Yes.
And was Bulljagger also part of the freshman class years ago?
Yes. Yep.
It's kind of like Dirigo is the kid that got held back.
Yes.
He's
like his
O'Doyle.
credits.
He's experienced.
O'Doyle rules.
He's O'Doyle.
O'Doyle rules.
That's awesome, and it's also cheating too. So thanks, Tom. Actually, I had a Dirigo. Where the heck was I? Oh my God! Oh, Black Birch. And
awesome. Cool.
Yep.
Neat.
Sorry, continue.
No, it's okay. So on actual election night, I went over to Slab. They had the thing that they do with the beer bus, where they basically have, I guess it was a dozen different breweries all divided up by what the beer tour would be. So like the York County Bounty and so the 4 from the York County tour, the 4 from the Mid-Coast, the 4 from whatever. And whoever kicks the keg first wins. So essentially you bring people down to come, drink your friend's beer as much as you possibly can. And Dirigo actually kicked their keg first, and they were out by 3:45. It went on all day.
Nice.
But they killed it by a landslide. So they had a whole bunch of friends and fans of the brewery come by early on during the day. I was kind of peeking on the social media every once in a while to see who was ahead. And I at one point there was a blackboard, and they had a number of pours next to everything. And it was like 2, 5, 6, 2, 5, 6, 34. And it was like, so they did some good campaigning. So they had a good time with that. And then I headed over to Rising Tide, who had a pig roast / election night results return party.
Oh God, that's like a terrible thing to celebrate, but a great place to do it in, I guess. That's fine.
I missed the pig. They had far too little pork to go around, but it's the first time I've ever done that. But what was kind of cool is that we were all standing there, kind of biting our nails about the election results. But while we were there, Heather Sanborn found out that that she had won her place in office as state rep. So she,
nice.
So she found out there was a little eruption of like, woo, because she, they just wrote about her on the Brewers Association website, actually.
That's really cool.
In regards to that. So you should go check that out. She's an awesome person. So I had a really good time hanging out there. And Wednesday, I did not participate in anything. I'm going to move on.
Hump day break. Oh, well, for a lot of reasons, but hump day break is fine.
Yeah, I did need a break, though. Yeah. And then what did I do on Thursday night? There were so many good things this year.
Did you go to because I think Thursday, what day was the New Hampshire Takeover? Or did you go to that by chance?
I did not go to that.
It was Monday, okay.
I did not actually go to that. And
I think Thursday was like the Oxbow bottle thing at Novare, which I almost went to. Like that was like I almost went to something on Thursday because I was like needed something, but.
Oh, I know what I went to. I started with Tales from the Brew House.
Ooh, that's always good. At the
which is
Old Port?
Basically stand-up storytelling at Andy's Old Port, where people from breweries get up and tell stories that are hilarious or interesting or scary. I got there towards the tail end of it. What?
Oh, sorry. Is it about beer or just any kind of whatever?
Yes. It's mostly about beer. Sometimes not about beer, but mostly about beer. Usually it's behind-the-scenes stories. So there was a guy at Rising Tide that talked about almost falling off like precariously wrecking all this cool ship that was like hanging off of a forklifts and all this stuff. And meanwhile, Heather's sitting here hearing this for the first time, like, what?
Shut it
there
down.
was, and then there was a really heartwarming one about somebody who was at Maine Med and they were smuggling beer to them because that was their favorite beer ever while they were sick. And there were a lot. There were a lot of good stories. I did miss most of them because I got there late. But I will tell you guys that the best story was another Rising Tide employee. His name is Joe. And I think I can say this on the podcast because I don't think anybody who listens will be at this other storytelling event. I recruited him to tell this story somewhere else in December. So I apologize if I'm spoiling this for anybody, but he told this story about how he used to work at a place like as a food runner or like service, waiter or something like that. And there was one day where this guy came in who was the cook and just effed everything up, like totally screwed it up, was terrible. Next day he has to work with this guy again. It's all coming out wrong. So he like reams the guy, whatever. Next day the guy doesn't show up. And they're like, okay, what's going on? Turns out, and this is a famous Maine case that I had no idea about. This guy, the chef guy, was living in a bed and breakfast and had murdered the host of the bed and breakfast, murdered somebody else, went to work, screwed everything up, murdered more people, came back to work, screwed everything up, and murdered more people. So, like, he was sitting there, like, trying to, make pizzas and stuff after having, like, killed multiple people. So Joe was the guy working with him, like, getting these orders, like, what the hell is wrong with you? And turns out a lot was wrong with the guy.
Nice,
but it was one of these stories that we were like, holy. So
everyone's got to go home now.
It was a hell of a yeah. I'm glad it was one of the last ones because nobody else would have wanted to come after that. I tell you that right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Who wants to go after that?
Yeah, no freaking way. And then where did I go after that? I went to the Great Lost Bear for the Maine IPA tap takeover, which is where they had 29 IPAs that were brewed in Maine on tap all at once, which is just to me nuts. Yes. By then, I had wanted to. I stayed later at Andy's than I had intended. So what I had wanted to do is do what I did last time, which is get a flight of the ones that I hadn't tried and kind of do them back and forth. But I ended up tasting a few, but didn't do the full on like I'm going to taste everything. I think I was starting to get tired.
Probably.
And then, although I gotta say, and then Friday, I had fun, and it had nothing to do with Maine beer. They had a Jack's Abbey takeover at
Was it
Novare.
30 taps or something?
It was amazing.
Oh.
So across the street at the Thirsty Pig, they had an event that was a Trillium and Bissell Brothers tap takeover.
Oh, that sounds
And when
terrible.
I went to go parking to go to Novare Res, I forgot that was happening. I'm parking for Novare Res, and I'm doing like the circle around the Oldport thing. There was a line all the way up Exchange Street and around the block to get into Thirsty Pig. And I was like, well, I'm really glad I'm going to Novare because I'm not doing that.
It's like
right?
Black Friday. God.
So I go to Novare, and they have Framing Hammer. They have all of their sour stuff. They have like 6 different versions of all these things. One with mole, one with like there were. It was awesome. And now I understand why everyone goes nuts for Jack's Abbey because, yeah, we just recently gotten it distributed up here. We're getting, like, dribs and drabs of the basic stuff. We got a lot of house lager, which is really good. But I've never had, like,
But to have, like, all their beers at your disposal, like, I got a text on Friday that said 31 taps. Like, let's go. Like, oh, I wish.
Yeah, let me – hold on. I have a picture of the tap list. Here, I'm just going to read some of these to you.
Oh, yeah, I think that's
Blood Orange Sour Time. Brewery Maker, which was a tastes like Allagash Curia. Another sour time called Grape Sour Time. Mélange de Mur, which is soured in red and white wine barrels with blackberries. Cuvée de Bandwagon is a dry hopped sour. Cuvée de Rouge, which is red and golden beers with wild yeast. Sour Pumpkin Smoke and Dagger. Cranberry Sour. Then when they had Framing Hammer, and then they had the coconut version, the coffee version, the Cordon Rouge version, the graham cracker version, the mole version. Then they had Numb Swagger, which was smoke and dagger with a Szechuan pepper in it. They had Calyptra and Calyptra 3X, which was triple dry hopped, I think. Excess IPL, Fireman and the Ham, Friend Request, Harvest Pilsner, Haponius Union, House Lager, Leisure Time with Hibiscus and Blood Orange, Pumpkin Crop Lager, Saxonator, Sibling Rivalry, which is a rye IPL, Smoke and Dagger on Nitro, a Wet Hop Lager, a Vienna Keller beer, and then Haponius Union on cask. That's insane.
That is insane.
So I stayed there. It was funny because I actually had Friday off because it was Veterans Day. I got there relatively early. I'm looking at this list and I'm like, I had a lot of these, but I also stayed there a really long time. So Mike and I were sitting there like we would order 2 different ones and we would we would sip each other's and stuff. But holy moly, was that an event! So got to give major props, to the Jack's Abbey folks, and now to everyone in Massachusetts. Whenever I'd ever rolled my eyes every time you've been bragging about Jack's Abbey, I now understand. I'm sorry. And
what's crazy about that is more beer that they have on tap at their actual brewery. So to be able to have that kind of access to those taps is like awesome for both places. It's definitely awesome for Jack's Abbey to be like, here's all this stuff, and like we can't even serve all this at our place. That's cool. And then the next day, so there was one event we had on our calendar like months ago. My wife is a big sour fan. We're going to go to it. Where the Wild Beers Are, we've been to every year since it's happened because we love, because, I'll tolerate sour beers, but they also have other beers I can try.
Yeah.
And then she got sick and we didn't go.
Oh.
So, did you go or?
No, I went to everything else though that day. So I went, they had David versus Goliath, the Thirsty Pig. So that was a blind tasting where they paired up like a big brewery and a small brewery. So they had Lagunitas IPA and Fry's Leap. They had Boston Lager and Dirigo Lager. They had a couple of, I think it was Booth-based Stout, and I forget who the other Stout was, but it was kind of fun. Although it's funny because it was, you could ask for it blind or you could tell them, they'll tell you the difference. But I ordered the one that was Bissell Brothers Substance versus Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. And I want you to picture the image in my head of the difference between those 2 beers. It was like, I can see through it, but not even the chance of hops.
It's like not even a good comparison.
No, it's not. So it was a little fun in that way.
Nice.
But it was kind of cool to see, kind of some of these beers being just as good as the the big guys, which was fun. And then I went to the Battle of the Brewery Bands was the last thing that I did.
Ooh, that was.
And I saw the picture that you took of Dave from Some. How was that band? Because they play.
Oh man, they were really good. Like I would say that almost all the bands were good in their own way. The one I didn't like the most was Allagash's, only because in comparison it just wasn't as good as the other guys. But there are some awesome pictures and videos up on Facebook from people from this thing. Everybody had a ball. It was just super fun. It's also where they announced the superlatives. So Don Littlefield, who does the Brew Bus up here, got the Beer Ambassador Award, which I was rooting for him for. It's just really, it's basically everybody coming together, being simultaneously exhausted and having fun at the same time. I don't think there were any like members of the public in that room. Do you know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah.
It was just the beer industry basically. But everybody played really well. There were no stinker bands. Like everything, we were all singing along. We were having a good time, and everything great was on tap too. They had Austin Street on tap and everything in between. So. It was fun, and then I was exhausted.
Yeah, so I mean,
as you can tell, I'm still a little hoarse, actually.
I definitely hear that. But like, what? So you went to a lot of events. How did you have a gauge as to how the attendance at these events were in comparison to last year? Was it like all well attended? I mean, at least when you were there. How did the week go in general?
I think the week went very well in general. Most of the ones that were ticketed did sell out and sold out kind of early. There were, I don't know how some of the peripheral just kind of like, hey, yeah, I threw on a tap takeover went. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, because those are the ones that I tend to avoid because I'm like, yeah, I know.
They happen,
And I know that they did cancel one of the main beer tours because they didn't have enough people signed up for that. But in general, I heard only good things. There was a really cool event that I didn't go to on Thursday night. where they had tricycle races inside salvage. So it was people who would get on these little tiny bicycles, like these big guys who work at brewers and stuff, and basically go around in circles. There's some pictures circulating of that ridiculousness as well. So there was a little bit of everything for people. I was happy to see that there were some other beverages involved too. So there was a beer cocktail night that Foulmouth did it at Portland Pie that sounded cool.
Oh, nice.
And there were just a couple of beer dinners that sounded really good. And just, I like that there's still a variety of stuff. You don't have to be into sours. You don't have to be into tap takeovers. You don't have to be, pay $70 to go to a dinner. There's a lot of opportunities. The folks at the Great Lost Bear said they had great turnout all week for all the stuff that they did all week long. I think it's still a very successful beer week.
Awesome. I mean, and there was no beer festival this week during the week, right? Besides,
No.
I mean, I wouldn't call it a festival, but the freshman orientation. But so to have a beer week without a festival, but to be so well attended, awesome.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, I think half of that is twofold. Is that basically that festival that this used to be anchored to never really had anything to do with the Portland Beer Week. It was just a good reason to attach to it, because if you were coming in town for that, you could stay for the events. And so that fest was really not the favorite of the people around. It was not, it was getting a little bit weird groups of brewers. It wasn't everybody you wanted to be there. It's not like the Guild Fest where it's everybody in Maine shows up. It was kind of a lot of a.
But isn't that the opposite? That beer fest had been around the longest in Maine. And the beer
but
week,
it was getting
but
it was getting less and less and less Maine.
Beer week attached itself to it. Or
yes,
not
that's
attached
true.
itself to it. Timed it around when it was going on.
It did, yes. Because there were people who were coming into 4 years ago in particular, there were people who were actually attending it. But as it's gone on, it has become less and less of a desirable festival to go to, and they ultimately just didn't do it this year.
Yeah.
And it's mostly because, honestly, I think that a lot of the Maine brewers are stretched too thin with events anyway. Like the amount of fests that there are now, they actually have to decide between the ones I want to go to and the ones where it's mostly drunk people.
If that law didn't change of you could only go to X number of year to create new festivals, that probably had a big difference into it. Because the law that used to have is that you could only go to X number in a year.
Oh, it's not that you can't go to. You can't create that many. So there's only permits given out for so many festivals per year. So it's not about the individual brewer attending that many. It's about the fact that you as a person can't have more than, X festivals per year.
The old law?
As the organizer.
One of the laws that was like a couple years ago, like a bunch of years ago, maybe like even 6 or more, was that
I wouldn't know what 6
There was a limit of how many brewfests a brewery could go to in a single year.
Oh, because the one I'm familiar with is the law that's about basically that the Brewers Guild runs into every once in a while, is that you can only host they only give out so many permits for festivals per year. So it's they're fighting with themselves, essentially, if they want to host more than, one big fest per year, for example, like the Brewers Guild. So there's different, so that is probably younger than the issue that you're talking about, which is probably older than that.
Correct.
That would make sense to me.
So all in all, there will be another Portland Beer Week. It's not going away anytime soon.
Heck yeah! I'm not seeing this. I'm not seeing this go anywhere anytime soon.
Well, congrats to everyone that had a hand in putting that together, and you should well-deserved rest. I mean, and there is no rest. I'm sorry. I was going to say you can all rest, but there is no rest in Portland because you see the photos from all the breweries, and they're cranking 24/7. So kudos on them for having the time to take away from the normal week to get into this whole crazy week of beer week. So good for them. I wanted to talk to Sean really quick because even though he didn't make a Portland Beer Week event, you did make Nearax, and Nearax is such a good event.
Oh.
And I was so mad that I found out on Saturday that it was that weekend. Sean, you went. Tell me about Nearax North.
So Nearax North was actually part of Mass Beer Week, which kind of
nice.
Weird that it was at the same time. Nearax North has had a couple different iterations. I think the first iteration, it was held at Novari.
Yes.
Portland.
I remember
and then for a while after that, it was held at the Haverhill Tap or the Tap
Sure.
Brewery in Haverhill.
That's where I met Sean for the first time.
Way back when. That was awesome. And then it moved across the street for a couple of years to the Amesbury Ale House, where they did it on one of the floors upstairs. This was the first year that they actually moved it to Salem. Cool thing about it is that the back page, if you can read that, it was a big notch sponsorship right there.
Still got to get there. I still got to go.
It was hosted at the Knights of Columbus in this nice hall in Salem, kind of in an area that was downtown, but a little bit away from downtown, so there was on-street parking that you didn't have to pay for. So, and folks who don't know, NERX is stands for New England Rail Ale Exhibition, and is a kind of a sister partner of CAMRA, which is Campaign for Rail Ale in the UK. And they host 3 events in the year. Their big event is actually typically somewhere in the Boston area. It's been in South Boston for the last couple of years. It used to be in Somerville for a long time. And this one, we went to it on Friday night. They had, I think, about 70 or 80 casks.
That's great.
They're mostly all Firkins, so not pins. And they were kind of split 50-50 U.S. and European, so a lot of British Firkins. Neat. And the cool thing about this November specific timing is that the beers that get sent over here from Europe get filled back up and sent over to the Great Beer Festival.
Is that in
Great Britain Beer Festival?
Rhode Island? Oh, Great Britain.
Yeah, the Great Britain Beer Festival. So they basically send these kegs over, and they get sent back with beer, and that basically it's the U.S. tent that's at the festival.
That's awesome.
This year, and they've been doing it for a while, and I never attended it. They did a Friday night VIP tour tasting, and this one was with Brass Castle Brewery in Yorkshire, and there was a guy named Phil Saltonstall who sampled 5 different beers with us and kind of just talked about brewing in the UK and kind of his inspiration of actually. The funny thing is that his inspiration of brewing beer amongst many other people that are his colleagues is what's happening in the U.S. All the different U.S. beers and styles and stuff like that. Cool. So it was really fun. It's one of those ones that you pay like a really nominal fee to get in. And if you've never been, you basically you get a glass that you can return back in at the end, and you pay per quarter, half, or a full pint. So you can go around and sample. You can find something that you like and kind of stick with it, and it really gives you a good chance to try all sorts of different cask ales.
Yeah, it's a cool you just said it. It's a cool way to try a lot of different ones by having that price point of 2 ounce, 4 ounce, half pint, pint. I went to a cask festival in the Yorkshire area a couple years ago in the UK, and what they did was they sold you a ticket. And the ticket was 20 pounds or whatever. But on the ticket, it had punches. And then for that $20, you punch as many ounces as you want for that beer, which I thought was a cool idea because that way you pay money and then you have the prepaid ounces.
Oh, that's cool.
So I want 4 ounces. Like, okay, we'll punch 4 things and here you go. So, I mean, I thought that was a nice, easy way, but because a lot of people might not know that might just kind of waddle into the NERX festival that they might need cash or something like that to kind of.
Yeah, it's a little intimidating if you don't. If you've never been to it before, that's
for sure intimidating too because you're with a lot of you don't obviously if you're just kind of a casual beer drinker, you don't know who you're drinking beer with, but there's not just brewers that have beers, in cask, but there's just brewers there because they like cask beer. There's, reps from breweries that love cask beer. So that it's a pretty it's almost highbrow without being snobbish or hipster because it's like the old school beer, right? So this is
exactly.
And I went to the one last year. It was nice. Did you try any beers that you normally drink non-cask, but they had a casked version?
Yeah, I actually drank some Lord Hobo Boom Sauce.
How was that in cask?
It was good. I liked it.
Nice.
I liked it. I had some Riverwalk had their Porter on, awesome. which I jumped right on that. There's a lot of like, I mean, local New England breweries that had different beers on.
I think Bear Irish had a cask there,
Yeah.
which is for the first time, maybe.
Yep, for the first time, Beer Irish
10 out of 10.
was
Heard
available
10 out
there.
of 10.
Great North also had a beer there, tie-dyed with lemon peel. Beer's Irish was their Java Porter.
Oh, nice, cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad it wasn't their buffalo chicken ale. So that's good.
That's a tough one.
Did you just say buffalo chicken ale? Back up. What?
Yeah, they use hot sauce.
You heard me right. Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's spicy.
It tastes like you think.
Yeah, it's spicy.
Interesting. I don't know.
It's like Buffalo Wild Wings.
The other cool thing is that I don't know if you probably met him, but he's kind of right there in the back of the book. That's Randy. He works at the Homebrew Emporium in Cambridge. He wrote a book, and it's called Hosting Cask Ale Events.
Specific. I like it. That's a niche book I can get into.
And it was easy. He said he wrote it. He submitted it to someone online, and they printed it as many that he wanted.
Awesome. That's
and
cool.
You got to pick the front graphic, the back graphic, and hopefully, I don't know, Brian, if possible, maybe a live show with the coat of arms talking about the book.
Listen, I got time. So yes.
That'd be cool.
In.
February 20 something.
Awesome.
2017.
February something, 2000 something. I'm in. So, which actually brings me to the closing topic. But I know we have some things on our show notes page which we didn't talk about, which we should at least mention
or whatnot.
Yeah. So, as usual, the show notes you can find that on the website and in the show notes of this show. A lot of good stuff. New Belgium's coming to Massachusetts, and they've announced who they're going with. Very interesting combination that might be reminiscent to some people. We also have Two Roads. We talked about the last podcast. Jack's Abbey is opening up a second facility called Springdale to focus on the other beers than lagers, like the wine barrel age stuff. Well, Two Roads is doing kind of the same thing. They're opening up a dedicated facility for sours and barrel aging in Stratford, Connecticut. Check
Have
it.
they done sours and barrel aging before and just they're doing more of it? Or have they not done any? The only thing I've ever had from Two Roads has been hoppy.
Well, they've done it in some of their limited series.
Oh, okay. So not like
yeah. So some of the stuff that they made like inconsiderably, it would be a large batch for someone else, a small batch for them. And I think basically they're doing it because they were just moving that production to another spot to kind of keep it separate from everything else that they're doing.
Nice.
Makes sense.
And also we got Shelton Brothers, which are from this area of Massachusetts, right up top here, Belchertown, Mass.
B-Town.
And they're filing a lawsuit against the Craft Brewers Guild, which I didn't read, so I'm not going to go much into, but you need to check it out. Check out the link because I'm going to do that real quick. And we got more distribution for Night Shift. And
they're opening their own self distribution center. So
which is nice because over the past 4 or 5 months, I've seen them show up more and more like closer to me, but in a mass quantity, not just like we only have 6 4-packs of Whirlpool. It's now like we have cases of Whirlpool. Here you go. So it's Carla, it's coming up to you. Don't worry about it. You're gonna get the beer. You have plenty to worry about up there.
So I apologize, Brian. Let me correct that. They're going from self-distributing to opening their own separate company as being a distributor.
I mean, how much money is too much money for Night Shift? At this point, it's
an interesting move because the story behind the scenes is that in Mass, as a self-distributing brewery, you can distribute up to about around 2,000 barrels. And if you're going to equate that to like a case of beer, you take 2,000, you times it by 13.7 or 14 to round it off. So at that point, when you sell that much beer direct, actually outside of your building, you could sell as much direct from your own place, but more so outside your building. You either have to kind of stay at that limit, not sell anymore, or sign with a wholesaler. So instead of signing with a different company to be their distribution partner, they actually open their own distributorship.
And Ben, just to kind of wake you up a little bit, speaking of Night Shift and the Teddy Peanut Butter Factory, you visited for the first time yet a couple weeks ago. What'd you think about it? Here we go. Shut him off. He's hitting way too hard.
I don't want to. I love night shift. I think the beer is great, but the vibe I got in there was that it was like I was lucky to be in there.
Nice.
Isn't that true? Anyway, it's a little bit far outside of your own.
Not nice.
I kind of felt like
wait, how so?
like I was in somebody else's house that really didn't want me there, and they're like, "Yeah, like we let you in here." I don't know. It was just kind of like this weird.
Definitely,
it didn't feel super welcoming to me.
I'll give it to you from the doorman. It was kind of like, okay, interesting. Well, doorman at 2:00 on a Sunday is interesting in its own right, but he didn't seem to care. But I'm with you on that. I'll join you on that.
I had that same feeling when I went to Three Floyds in Indiana.
Oh, I'm with you there too. Exactly, because I think they must deal with a lot of like highbrow snobs, where people that like us that appreciate like wherever we are, but we're not like, hey, beer. It's they kind of just take the one-off level approach of like, we're gonna treat everybody like this. And it wasn't bad, Ben. But I know what you're saying though. It's like there was a few bartenders that were fantastic, and there's a couple that are like, what you want.
There are no tasting rooms like that in Maine.
Baloney.
Hey,
Carla, I would say a name right now that would probably make you tip over
come
your
on,
chair.
tell me.
No, I can't do it. I won't. Sworn to secrecy.
Oh, well, that doesn't count.
It does.
But
it's not about being a highbrow. It's just whether or not you're part of the club or not. That's
the same deal. No. We're not talking. We're not talking mean.
Okay.
It's not
unwelcoming. I don't feel.
It's not a mean feeling.
Hey, Carla's crying. Back to Ben. No. Wait. So Ben, but as far as the look of the place, thoughts on like the size of like the night shift? Because have you been to Everett? I mean, have you been to their old one yet or before?
No, never been. No, good sized place, great tasting room. Like merch is outlined great. They have the outside area, food trucks right next to Teddy Peanut Butter. It was great, but it was just like this weird attitude that I got.
What were you super shocked by after that? Where do we go after that?
Oh, Slum Brew.
Slum Brew. What? And my first time too.
What a revelation!
Awesome.
So impressed. The food.
Did you go to the Assembly Row or did you go to the brewery?
The brewery.
I went when I went down to visit Norm for his birthday. It was awesome.
It's great, so I'll speak a little bit, then I'll let Ben go. But just by only having access to very few of their beers up here in like the Kittery area, or in Mass, just to see their tap list alone again is like, I didn't know they made all these beers, and here it was great. But Ben, it was good.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a couple of Slum Brew before. I think I was mentioning too. The first time that I had Slum Brew was the first time that I met Sean, which was at the Brewfest in Amesbury when Sean was pouring Pumpkinhead out of literal pumpkin. And I remember kind of thinking that it was cool, and it seemed like a really small like family operation. I felt like I thought it was like a husband and a wife, but I can't be sure of that. But at any rate, they had a lot of beer on tap. They had a lot of different styles on tap. The bartender was great. We really hit it off with him. The food was great. And you know what? Something that Brian and I have talked about a number of times is breweries that have, or like brew pubs that have a great charcuterie plate, which is I'm a huge fan of. They have 5. No joke.
5 separate plates.
5 separate plates.
Yeah.
That sounds crazy.
Different cheeses.
It's like appetizers, charcuterie plates. Like it's awesome.
So what's your favorite part in the charcuterie? The meats and the cheeses.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, and my wife and I we see eye to eye on few things, but this is one where it's like, here we go. Charcuterie plates and cheese plates need to offer the right amount of toast or crackers per whatever's on the plate.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
can't have like you can't have 10 crackers and then have like a combination of like 20 pieces of meat.
Totally. And so
you shouldn't have any crackers at all if you have all hard cheese. Like, I mean, the whole
some
spreading.
crackers. No. But so what I'm saying is like,
spreading
and I don't mind like rolling up the meat over the cheese and eating it like kind of like a Lunchable. But then again, it's like I'm eating a Lunchable. So I don't want to be doing that at a brewery. I want toast. I don't care. I don't give any saltines. If I open up a brewery with Ben, it'd be saltines for days, like lining the walls. Like, you want more crackers? Go.
At McSorley's, the oldest bar in New York City, the one that's been around for freaking forever, they give you saltine crackers, a little bit of onion, and a dot of mustard on it. That's what you eat at McSorley's. That's it.
I need to be there right now. I need to be there right now. Oh, man. Yeah, so, and yes, Sean, I agree. We're doing a charcuterie podcast where we're just going to sit here and like just chew charcuterie.
Can I just do?
No,
I'll be the cheese corner.
Everyone has to come to the podcast
cheese.
with two items for the charcuterie plate.
All right, yeah. So we'll do the SBL podcast Christmas basket. You go to Pepperidge Farm, you pick these things up. That's the combo of the SBL podcast platter. But so yeah, Ben, we had some good beers before, but then we went straight to Michelob Ultra at Hell in a Cell at the TD Garden. So it was like up here and then just.
You guys had some good seats to that. You guys are like a bird's eye view.
Yeah, I get. I mean, as part of my company, we get the access to the luxury box, and oddly enough, not a lot of people are going to wrestling events in my company. So I get to pick. I get to get some seats when I can, and we had a hell of a time. But also, what's good about being in a luxury box is they all have fridges, and usually the night before, 2 nights before, if there's like I was gonna say Red Sox game, if there's like a Bruins game or something, they might leave some stuff in there. So the second Ben and I walk in, we walk right to the fridge and we're like, yes, Michelob Ultra in the fridge. We did it.
We made it.
Yeah, free beers instead of spending. God, what do we pay for Sierra Nevada Pale? Like $7 a can.
You know, it wasn't that expensive. It was only like $18 or so.
Yes, it was terrible.
You can get a 16-ounce Harpoon IPA at $8 at the Songus Arena for your Muslow game.
And they still syringe some water in it too. Like, it's still watered down somehow. It's in a can. Anyway, so yeah, kudos to Night Shift on all that, swinging right back around to what we were talking about. And then also there's 3 more things on there you should want to check out. Something about Ben & Jerry's and New Belgium, Newburyport and Newburyport Brewing Company and Stone doing some stuff indeed. You might want to check that out. And so the main, you see the title of this podcast, which at this point I've created, and I won't say until I put it up there, but you're looking at it like, what's going on? Well, I thought about this show the past couple weeks, and I decided it might be time for a break. Not for lack of content. We talk about news all the time, whether it be about how snobby some bartenders are or how many people Stone is laying off. No beer news is not important. But we also have a lot of big things going on in our lives. Sean is weeks away from having his first child, so
yay!
The one time Sean doesn't applaud for himself is when we give him great news.
I think Amber's doing most of the work, though.
It's like Sean didn't realize. Wait, it's really.
No, let's have a head for Amber.
So yeah, exactly. So Sean's a couple weeks from having his first child. Ben is tending duties to two kids, 1 newborn, and that would leave me and Carla. I'm not saying Sean or Ben wouldn't be around for these shows, but I kind of want them to kind of enjoy the time they have with their family. Holidays are coming up, and I don't want to kind of be the guy that's like laying down the gavel of scheduling shows and recording. So I want to take this time to give it back to everybody to kind of do what they want, and I threw a dart at a dartboard, and I think we're going to come back in February, because for the entire month of January, I'm going to be in Singapore. And while I would love to do a podcast from Singapore, you guys drinking beer at 9 o'clock at night is me drinking beer at 10 o'clock in the morning. Well, which isn't that bad, actually, now that I say it out loud.
Yeah, but we can do it on Sunday.
So
I'll do that. I want to do a show from far away.
Yeah, the main overlying arch of what we're doing now is we're pushing pause on the podcast, not stopping it. I want Sean to enjoy the first couple months as it pops, But coming back in February, because what we have going on in February is pretty much like a new start to the beer year. We have Extreme Beer Fest, we have Portland Beer Week, and we have a lot of stuff going on then. We're going to come back.
Portsmouth Beer Week.
What did I say, Portland? Are they doing another one?
The return of the Seacoast Winter Brew Fest.
For sure. Yeah, so we have things to talk about then, and then between now and then doesn't mean we're not going to have anything on this feed. So if you're still listening to it, keep subscribed, because what I plan to do with this time that I have, kind of, I say it by myself, but without the podcast, is I hope to do more one-on-one interviews with brewers in my area, and I'm hoping maybe if Ben, Carl, and Sean have time to do the same, they will. Might have some extra bonus episodes going on, but for now, the organized 4 that you see here, we're taking a quick break. We'll be back in February because things and reasons. And if you want to know more about those reasons, I put a post on my regular blog on sequencebeveragelab.com that kind of pretty much just said what I just said, but you can pass around to your friends. But yeah, Sean, that's super exciting. I'm super pumped for you. And do you have the onesie? Do you have the onesie in your hand at all that you can show them?
Give me 30 seconds.
This is crazy. I always want that as a shot for the podcast image. But yeah,
I've got a shit-filled diaper in my hand that I can.
I need this. But yeah, so I know Carla needs time to decompress. She might need 3-4 months to decompress from Portland Beer Week.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's the reason.
No, but I do kind of like, we've been talking a little bit offline about maybe doing a special 1 or 2 in the feed in between now and then. So like Brian says, we appreciate your subscription, and hope you'll hang in there for maybe a couple special episodes between now and February would be really cool. And just a shout out to our regular listeners. I know that I was talking to Rob, who's the Jack's Abbey rep, and he was like, "No, man, that's my driving. I'll listen to that."
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
So I promise we'll be back. But so in the meantime, and the other thing is that if you have ideas for little special things that we could do in between, give us a shout, and we'll see what we can do.
Great idea. Yes, for sure. Send them to any of us, and we'll for sure do it, because I'm hoping to do more, not daily, but at least once a week videos on the YouTube. So I say the YouTube like I'm like 70-year-old person, but like on YouTube,
on the tube,
on the internet,
on the internets and the Twitters. But yeah, so make sure you follow all of us, because there'll be some stuff with beer. I want to give some weird stuff a try, because I haven't been able to, and I think I'll use this time to try some like different things and see what goes on, because you never know what's going to stick with this weird thing we call the internet, with this garbage fire we call the internet that we're all listening to right now. Shano, check it. We'll be back in February. Check this out.
That's awesome.
And the best part about that, Sean, is
it is awesome. I can't. Yeah, it's like.
But no, but the person that printed it was like, "That's a pretty cool logo." I'm like, "It's been around for 5 years."
No,
what size is it?
We're going to.
But I mean, this logo's been around what, 5 years?
Oh yeah.
I don't even know.
But the week's been around 7. We go on 7 years.
We're going on 8.
8 years. Let's go.
6 months.
Yes, that's perfect. Well,
So Sean,
I guess it's 3 months away.
Sean, put it up. Just go whoop. No, never mind. Yeah. So Ben, any final words before we kind of get weird and put some random stuff on this podcast feed later?
No, I think I'm looking forward to everybody kind of taking a break, trying out some new things. Some stuff will stick, some stuff won't. Maybe we'll come back with some new format ideas. Maybe it'll just be a more enjoyable experience for the people who tune in, who we appreciate more than anything. So definitely looking forward to coming back in February, guns blazing.
Awesome. Carla, thoughts? Even though you knew this was happening, thoughts?
Yeah, no, I totally knew this was happening, right? I was paying attention. I read things. No, just, it's been a great, I know that everybody makes fun of the fact that 2016 has been kind of like a crappy year in general. I think this has been a great beer year. So if y'all just kind of hang in there, ride it out, we'll be back in the new year with some new ideas and some new stuff happening. So, go ahead.
And for the record, before last week, like I knew this was happening before last week. So we're not shutting down for any specific reason until February. The second the second the internet went to hell last week, I'm like, I don't want to post this until Monday.
Oh,
like,
no, it's not the apocalypse. It's not like we have that radio tone of death, like, no, it's fine. We'll be back. It's been time to talk
sure.
about it.
And Shano, final words before the break?
I'm just really excited. This was love the show. I know a lot of friends.
Thanks for listening.
No, a lot of friends tell me, hey, this is what I listen to in my car. And I know you're going to be missing us for a little while. I think we're going to be missing together, but we're going to come back stronger and have some good guests. And I think that's really where it is kind of pumping up those guests that we're all talking about and just kind of booking them and making them happen.
Totally. And until then, you can follow us all on the podcast feed. It shows all the Twitters and the Facebooks and the blogs that you should be following because Carla's going everywhere. I'm going to try to get to within the next couple months. I'm going to be going to breweries I haven't been to in New Hampshire, so keep an eye on that. So until
anybody want to guess how many new breweries are going to be open in Maine before we start again?
I was going to say, yeah. Let's start that bet right now. That's a great idea.
I'm gonna
25.
Take me down. 15.
That's
15.
awesome.
That's a lot between now and February.
Yeah. How about between now and the marijuana bills passed? All right. We will no. So guys, we'll talk to you later and keep an eye on the feed for updates. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.